Welcome back, everyone, to Lesser Known Operators. I'm your host, Nicholas Allen, and my guest today is Anthony Autry. Anthony is an online fitness coach that has gone from federal prisoner to the free world, and he helps high achievers, military, first responders, and civilians become their best through discipline, nutrition, and fitness. You can find him on Instagram at Unchained_fit, and I'll have links to his socials in the show description. Today's episode is brought to you by Precision Wellness Group. If you are looking to restore balance, unlock vitality through bioidentical hormone therapy, evidence-based personalized medicine, look no further than Dr. Taylor Bosley and the Precision Wellness Group. Taylor Bosley is the founder and medical director of Precision Wellness Group. He is an emergency medicine physician, a U.S. Army veteran, and a Green Beret. If this is something you've been thinking about for a while or just now looking into it, look no further than Precision Wellness Group. I know there's a lot of information out there about hormone replacement therapy, testosterone replacement therapy, HRT, TRT, a lot of acronyms. If you want to talk to someone who knows what they're talking about, get a hold of Taylor. He has the shared background where he understands what you're going through, what you've been through, and where you need to go. Check them out. Links to their socials and website are in the show description. I do appreciate you guys. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, comment, pass these episodes along. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. I forgot to ask you, is it Anthony or Tony?
Yeah, it's Anthony. Tony had to go, bro. That dude was causing way too much trouble, so I had to get rid of that guy.
That's great because in the military, everybody's got, especially in special operations, they got a fake persona. But Anthony Autry, welcome to Lesser Known Operators. Thanks for coming on, man.
Absolutely, brother. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I don't know if you've seen any of my stuff, but obviously a military kind of centric page, little humor, little strength. And then I have the podcast here. But the reason I reached out to you and to have you on is because coworkers of mine, not generally, but generally with Green Berets, but not directly, like Terry Wilson, Warsaw Del Rosario. I saw you were hanging out with Cody Alford. I don't
A
know
friend of
him, but
mine.
obviously up there in the influencer soft world. And I got curious. I was like, all these guys are hanging out with you. So, and you had brought up a couple things. They were helping you, writing you letters to help you with your record and stuff. And then I was like, well, if they're helping this guy, I'm little fish. Maybe I can have you on. We can learn something about you, and then you can get your story out there more. And maybe, a 0.1% chance it'll help you more. So that's why I reached out to you, because if these guys that I've spoken to and that I have a good working relationship are trying to do their thing to help you, then maybe I can as well. And then we can just have a good conversation and build the network. So
Likewise, brother. However, I can be of service, man. That's just like one of my priorities today is just be able to give back, how I can help, share with others, whatever I can do to help other people. It's just like really feel like it's my testimony today, my purpose.
good, man. It's good to have purpose. I mean, unfortunately, it takes a long time to get to that place of having, yes, this is exactly what I want to do. Because when I was in service, I'd wake up, I was like, yes, I love doing this. Even though the military fucking blows, I loved what I was doing. And now when I've got this thing going on, I love it. There's not enough time in the day. Now that you have that purpose, are you finding that you just there's not enough time to have as much fun as you're having?
Absolutely. Yeah, not enough hours in the day. And it was really funny because it just really hit me within the last year that I've really found my purpose. And then once I found my purpose, I've really been able to kind of hone into like my niche, my real specific audience that I want to work with, that which is guys like yourself, guys that have served, guys in the military, guys that did a lot of fun stuff. So, that's what I wish I had done in my life. And now that I have the opportunity to work with a bunch of you guys is just a dream come true. So I'm having fun every day, man. It just keeps getting better and better.
Seems like you have a good relationship with these guys, right? You're doing content with them and everybody's, having a good time, speaking real positive. Do you think they see those traits in you of that you could have gone that direction had things been differently? And that's why that you all are attracted to each other? Because deep, like I've had guys on that got in some bad situations and they lost their like special forces tab or their trident or something like that, right? And I've said, I don't care. Like we're all like one decision away from fucking either living in the trailer park or living behind bars at any given time in our lives. So do you think some of those traits you had those, and that's why you guys have that commonality?
That's what I've been told by everybody. And a lot of guys are quick to admit they just didn't get caught. Like, like you said, was one small decision away from going down the same route. And so we're all the same, man. That's what I've been told by everybody. And the thing that really gets me the most, or I have the most respect for, is I'm not judged for what I've done. I'm judged for how I act today, how I what I my what I do, how I conduct myself, and that's how I'm judged today. So, which is just kind of inspiring for anybody out there, man. You don't have to be. You're not going to be judged by your past. Like anybody can make a change starting today. You know.
Yeah. People don't change unless they have to or want to. It's a lot easier to do it if you want to do it. And people can sense if you're being genuine or not. Um, is that what kind of pushed you into the fitness realm? Because, that's one of the healthiest things to get you back into normal life, right? It helps everything.
Absolutely. Yeah, you hit it on the head. I believe people don't change until they want to change. We can't make anybody do anything. They have to want to do it themselves. And then when I finally came to the conclusion that I wanted to change and I figured out the common denominator for all my problems was my addiction. So it just kind of went hand in hand. It's like, okay, so I need to get healthy, cutting out this addiction, then focusing on myself, my physical fitness, then also my mental game, and first and foremost, though, is like my relationship with God and Jesus Christ. Like that comes primary to everything. And so it was just I actually kind of call it getting in proper alignment. Getting dialed in. With my faith, with my mental game, and then my physical game. Once we get like in proper alignment, working just on the foundations of life, then at that point, man, it just then we take off. You can't have anything without a solid foundation. So I really kind of came to the discovery of that while I was incarcerated. I kept going in this vicious cycle of uh, being out, being in my addiction, committing all this crime, living like a freaking movie, man. It was nuts. And then finding myself I would always end up finding myself in a jail cell. And so it was only after numerous times in this cycle and years later all my friends are having families, owning businesses, moving forward in life, having wonderful lives. And here I am stuck in this cycle, having to start over. That I really started to make the change. It was in jail and then eventually prison, and which was a great place to do it. I feel like God put me there so I could just focus on myself. And I had all the time to in incarceration. I was able to focus on myself or run as hard of a program or a routine on myself as I wanted to. And so I would just freaking crush myself. I'd get up early, like 3 or 4 a.m., get in my Bible, stretch, do some burpees all before the door would open on the cell at like 6:30. And then I would just run a strictly regimented program throughout the entire day. I wouldn't sit in the day room and watch TV. I think the only TV I watched was like Yellowstone when that came on. But other than that, I was just on my program um, in federal prison. Eventually led to me getting into federal prison. But while I was in federal prison, I had gotten clean and got a year under my belt in sobriety and was on the straight and narrow. I retired from selling drugs, which was the thing that I was doing. So I had a year clean, and then that's when the U.S. Marshals showed up. So they had a federal warrant for me that was about 3 years in my past. So something I had done in my madness. And so I took full accountability for it, something I did, took ownership for it. I believe also only when somebody takes complete ownership of something can they fully make a change. And so I took that time and really kicked it into high gear. I'd done a lot of time before in some pretty serious places. And so I knew how to run a program. And so I just kicked it into high gear. I went and did this 4.5 years that I got for selling 2 ounces of methamphetamine. It was just over their mandatory minimum. And just crushed myself. Got a degree through correspondence for college. I actually tracked all my macros longhand. Figured out all my got the equations for like my BMR and all that stuff. Ran all my numbers, tracked it longhand on paper. Got under 10% body fat was like a goal of mine. And so I was just able to stack these wins in there and took advantage of the time. So when I got out, I just kind of hit the ground running. I was really prepared.
Fuck yeah, man. You got the time and you feel like you didn't waste it, right? Because you
Right.
can just let it eat you away. Time is, you're sitting alone and you can just let that shit drive you mad. And that's anywhere in life, right? You don't have to be locked up for it to time. You just let time go and it just gets away from you. Um, now you know, all my knowledge of like prison is from watching documentaries and shit. But as they portray it, um, if you're addicted to something on the outside and you get locked up, it's not necessarily a cutoff where you have to get clean in prison. Is that the case?
Absolutely not. Yeah, it's not. There's just as many drugs in prison as there is on the street. Access to them, and then even some drugs are more expensive than others. But if you're just an addict and you have a habit, there are substances that people can, buy nickel and dimes. Even in prison, people only have to spend $5 or $10, and they can still get a substance and get high and continue into their madness. Yeah, it doesn't, and it's really disgusting too. I started doing my time in LA County Jail back in the mid aughts, and at that point in time, it was a doing time was different than it was today. Back then, it was still like you know. There were a lot of like gangs within the correctional officers or within like the sheriff's department. So, for example, in LA County Jail around that time, one of the gangs um, was the 3000 boys. They were a bunch of big dudes that were all on a bunch of gear, and they
In
would have
prison?
yeah.
Uh,
So in county jail, the sheriffs run the county jail. They run corrections for the jails, and so a lot of these sheriffs they would have cliques, and so um, in Men's Central Jail in LA County Jail, there's on the 3000 floor is high security, and so you're dealing with a lot of guys that are fighting murder charges or they're looking at a lot of time. And so they really would have to set the standard in there, the sheriffs, where they couldn't let guys get away with anything. So they would go overboard. They would give a lot of these guys like flashlight therapy, they would call it. These guys, they would a lot of sheriffs would walk around with a belt, with a utility, with all their different things on it. These guys didn't wear a belt. They had nothing on them. They had like handcuffs in one back pocket and then a big mag light in their other back pocket. And so if you wanted to look these guys in the eye, if you wanted to mean mug them or something, they would smash you with their mag light to where guys were split open, leaking all over the place. And it eventually led to a federal indictment for these guys. The sheriff, the head sheriff, Tanaka, he got indicted. His under sheriff got indicted. And then same with a bunch of these other sheriffs. So doing time then was way different than it was now. Nowadays, things are a lot softer, which I think we kind of see with society, with kids and everything like that. It's just become a soft generation.
hmm. One thing that popped in my head while you're saying that is, yeah, you're out and you're motivating in one sect is high performers, but you're also trying to get your story out there to deter another group of people. Who are those people you're speaking to by getting your story out there that you want to show, hey, there's no glamour in this?
Absolutely. Yeah. Addiction doesn't discriminate. I always say it really touches everybody. I think everybody I know or anybody has at least somebody in their family if they haven't struggled with it or they know somebody that's struggled with addiction. So it hits everybody in society, unfortunately, these days. And so the group that I really, I want to get to, I've started working with some things to a couple of people to where I can get into juvenile detention centers. So I really like to talk to like at-risk kids that are kind of starting to make bad choices already. Just start from the ground up, start with kids, get all the way up to I'm getting in touch with the director of California of prison ministries to where I can go into prisons and other jails and talk to adults as well. Um, So, I mean, I'm targeting everybody. I'm targeting youth. I'm also targeting a lot of guys at blue collar jobs, a lot of union guys. A lot of these guys struggle with addiction as well. And it just destroys their whole life, families. But again, it doesn't discriminate, man. It works its way all the way up into, military, law enforcement. I've spoke at recovery center in Orange County, which is for first responders. Ended up going there, and it was a bunch of law enforcement officers, and so it was kind of funny. At first, I started sharing. They figure out I went there with a law enforcement officer from Southgate. We started talking because I get a lot of these guys are guys that follow me and check out my content and actually support. And so, like when I saw this guy supporting my content, I saw he was in uniform, so I reached out and said, "Hey, thank you for your service. If I can ever be a service, if there's anything I can do, please let me know." And so he thought it was kind of weird, and he chewed on it. We talked, we went back and forth a little bit, and then he came to me. He said, "Hey, actually, I'm going to go to this recovery center. If you want to come speak." I was like, "Okay, cool, yeah, send it." And so went there, and at first, all these guys were kind of sitting there with their arms folded, not really feeling me. And then, but kind of got all my story out. And by the end, I had good positive feedback from everybody on there. Everybody there, a lot of guys were saying it helped them identify with a lot of their PTSD they're going through. It just helped shed light that anybody can struggle with addiction issues. So I mean, it really just touches everybody. So I'm not restrictive in where or who I can speak with. If my message resonates with anybody, I'm off to the running and I'm going to do it. I think that's been one of the biggest things that's helped me get on the trajectory I'm on, is because I don't turn anything down. If anybody says, "Hey, we can use you over here," I'm sending it. So
Yeah, man. There's so much negative content out there. Bad. We're negative bias in the country. We focus on that. So when you're putting out good shit, positive content, speaking to people, kind of showing them your faults or the things where you've gone wrong, that's good stuff. That's good information. You just got to keep putting it out there to offset all of the negative shit that's out there, and hopefully make a difference. That's what I try and do. Like I just want to show people that we're supposedly these special operators, but we're just people. Life sucks, and you can easily go down a bad path and have adverse consequences that you suffer with for the rest of your life. But I see you got the core medical group shirt on there. With all of how much have you learned about the lifestyle and the stress? I mean, the stress of prison, the stress of addiction and all this other stuff. How much did it fuck with your hormones? Similar ways to our hormones got fucked with in the military with overpressure and fucking a lot of equal amounts of stress.
destroyed it, bro. Absolutely destroyed it through abuse of alcohol, substances, and then in the living conditions of incarceration, food quality. I mean, just was in the tank. I mean, it was in the double digit numbers, way under 100. And so, yeah, it was really bad. And so I'm a huge supporter with any and all of my guys. I work with the men. I attract everybody, though, women that are interested in leveling up, getting their fitness and everything on board. I push them over to my wife. She actually works with all the women. But for all the guys, it's one of the first things we do is I have guys go get their blood work done, see where they're at. And it's a commonality, even just with regular civilians, guys that are I have guys that come to me in their early 30s. They'll get their blood work done and they'll be under 100. They'll be at like 80. And so that's equivalent to like an 80-year-old man. And so a lot of guys at first are hesitant on to whether they want to do any kind of replacement therapy. And so then they get on they start working the program, they start getting in better shape, but it's a slow process. They're getting positive results, but it's not nearly like it should be. And so after maybe a couple of months, they're like, "Oh, okay, I'm ready to do something." And so then they'll actually do it, and they tell me how much better they feel, how much, all the positives that come along with it. So, yeah, I support it 110%.
Yeah, and It's one of those things, you don't know how bad you feel until you start feeling really good.
Yeah.
We, in our community, we self-medicate with alcohol all the time. I mean, the shop at on post is always open 24 hours. I don't know if that's still the case, but you can just go buy more booze and make yourself feel better until tomorrow. Am I fucking my life up? Yeah, probably, but I don't have to deal with my problems until tomorrow, until the next time it comes around and I'm back at work and things like that. So that's great, man. It's just, and we had spoke about the parallels, and maybe we'll get into some of that. But where are you from originally?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Los Angeles. I was actually born and raised in the Pacific Palisades. So everything that took place there, unfortunately, the house I grew up in burned down. A couple of the schools I went to burned down. Um, real tragic story. I'm uh, kind of curious about the whole situation. It seems a little coincidental. A lot of the, hindsight looking back, you kind of put things together, and I think the whole situation kind of stinks. That's just my personal opinion.
Like what? What do you?
Well, there was a lot of insurance companies that pulled out of the Palisades prior to what happened. They're wanting to rezone things in the Palisades. They're wanting to turn it into one of the first smart cities. And also, it's just a very influential neighborhood. It's full of celebrities. I grew up going to school with a bunch of celebrity kids. And so the fact that, fire started there and it just was allowed to burn everything down just kind of is a little, doesn't really sound right. It's just in my opinion, you know.
I had a firefighter on. The episode hasn't come out yet. It'll come out in like a week, and I don't know if we talked about it when we were recording or not. And he goes, I asked him about it, and he's like, there was nothing that they could have done with the wind like that because, and he says they see it all the time. It's just not as publicized as much because that
Mm,
was an area and it draw a lot. He goes, the people are moving out of the cities and then pushing into these forests, and there's nothing we can do. He's a wildland firefighter, and he's out there, and he goes, he says not only is there oftentimes nothing we can do, but if there is something we can do, they've cut our funding so much that our teams are smaller. So we could have done something if they were put the money into it. So that's on like the firefighters doing everything they can down at the
yeah,
base level, but there's other shit up at the top that's fucking everybody.
right. Of course, 100%. And that's, go figure. Yeah, no, I know that as well. Their funding was definitely cut. The real wealthy that were in the Palisades were able to bring on their own uh, fire people to keep their places safe. And these things that I'm kind of hinting towards, they go all the way up to the top. So I mean, but yeah, I was definitely aware of that, guys. It wasn't something that was like neglected on any kind of fire department side. Absolutely not. Those guys are all solid and do everything they can. I know a lot of them as well, and so it just kind of brings. I always kind of question the main narrative.
Are
It's
you
just
are
kind
you
of a
suspicious of the system from your time in the system?
uh, I don't know if it's just the time I've done in the system. You know, I was I was raised. My father was always he was always didn't just buy the irregular narrative on a lot of things. So he'd do his research and homework on a lot of things, a lot of different incidents that have happened. So I don't know. I don't know if it's just for me doing my time, but it's definitely just something I was brought up and raised with. Just not to buy the official narrative.
Yeah, one of those like parallels, right? From the same time, like especially people I associate with and military folks, like I will put my uniform back on tomorrow and go do whatever the fuck my country asks me to do. 100%, no questions asked. Do I trust the government? Fuck no. Not one
Yeah.
little bit. So that's a fuck. Those things don't line up,
Yeah,
right?
same here. Same right here. I'd suit up and boot up, even though if I could, yeah, I absolutely would, and I'd go do whatever. So I'm on par with you 100%. For my country, I'm off. I'm running. Send it. Do I trust the government though? No, I do not.
Oh, that's a lot of people. I know. I'm not going to speak for everybody. That's just like a lot of people. And other people will hear that and go, well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, you didn't serve. Like, you don't know. You don't know what we're talking about. Like, you're addicted to this life that you can only get. And it's like your dealer. The government's your dealer. Oh, just one more contract. Oh, just do 3 more years. Oh, man. All right. I guess so. I'll do. And then you're like, why the fuck did I sign up for this shit? But it's just weird. So don't trust the
Yeah,
government, kids.
yeah. If you know, if you know, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so you grew up in a kind of a up higher or middle class or upper middle class area originally then?
Yeah, yeah, definitely upper middle class area. Father owned a construction company, was doing pretty well. Um, mother's from the South, good country family. My grandfather was in the oil industry, so they were all throughout the South. And then my father's Sicilian, a lot of family back in Buffalo, and owned a construction company. We're there, had a typical, middle class, upper middle class upbringing. We do a lot of family vacations, go snow skiing, snowboarding. We'd go out, had a boat at Lake Havasu, did a bunch of water skiing growing up, played a lot of sports, was involved, did really well in sports, was always making all stars. Got involved in the Boy Scouts as well, which I eventually did end up graduating. I got my Eagle Scout. Unfortunately, though, yeah, started martial arts at an early age. Dad was real big in karate. He was real close with Ed Parker, who brought like Kempo karate to the U.S., which was big back in the day. Elvis got involved in that. So there's pictures. My dad was real close with Elvis and all that stuff. So started martial arts at like 3.5. He had me throwing butter knives down the hallway into like one of those old like white styrofoam targets, with both hands. Um, so that all started. So I was fighting in tournaments at a young age. Um, and then a big thing happened at 7 years old, Christmas Eve. Parents came into the room and were like, "Hey, we're going to get a divorce." And I kind of laughed at them. I never saw my parents fight or argue even. So it was a real surprise. But sure enough, next morning, dad was gone. Right around that time, it was like the early 90s. There was a big like housing kind of, he had a bunch of houses on the market. The bank ended up taking over a few of the houses, so there's a lot of financial problems going on. And just they're people at the end of the day. They just were making the best decisions they could make at the time, and so they thought it would be best, so they split. um Christmas morning was, supporting mom, and had my younger brother, who was 3 years younger, onto my leg. And so just kind of became the man of the house at an early age. Um, Unfortunately, started getting into trouble, using my parents getting divorced as an excuse to cause problems as a kid. Was getting kicked out of all the private schools. Um, and eventually made my way into public schools, which I started hanging out with some of the wrong kids and started to drift down a bad path.
Hmm. So you were able to recognize at that age that you were like saying, "Oh, this is the reason I'm kind of acting out," or what do you?
I think I got in trouble one time, just being a kid, and they were like, I caught wind that it was like, oh well, his parents are getting divorced. It's really a hard time for him, and so that kind of let me off the hook. And I was like, oh wow, okay, I can use this now to just kind of do whatever I want. So
Yeah, that's weird. I don't say weird, but like something in mind, like you know, I'm 55, whatever, 55, 56 weeks sober, no more drinking, right? Fucking
let's
probably the best
go,
thing I ever did.
let's go.
Uh, just changed my life so much for the better. I'm working, so much now, not making any money yet, but we're working on it. But, when you're kind of, you got a bad thing going on and it's something, and you kind of look for that excuse to keep going down this path because it's like easy, like doing the wrong thing is easy. The unhealthy thing is easy, and you kind of find any excuse to just keep doing it. Even if you're like in your head, you're like that's fucked up, and you still do it because you're like, well, I just another drink, just another, this or that. You find yourself doing that same pattern later on down in life?
Absolutely. You hit the nail right on the head. You congrats on the 55 weeks. That's what's up, dude. I'll have 7 years come October. And best decision I made was getting sober, getting clean and sober. And you hit it right on the head though. It becomes easy to just do the wrong thing. It becomes habit. You were staying in that comfort zone. And so I really just, it was, like submitting to instant gratification, you know. Um, and I used that as a justification, like, oh, I'm just living in the moment. I'm gonna have fun. I'm gonna just live it up now, and I'll do whatever in the future. I'll change, and I got into that habit, unfortunately, and it just carried for so long. It carried all the way up until, I mean, I didn't get sober and really get down to business until I was 36, and then was removed from society till I was 41. And so I'm just really feel like I'm starting my life over for the first time. And since I am sober and just taking care of business, man, it's just like trending, bro. Quick, fast, and on a whole nother level.
Good. Uh, it's like there was a joke in the military, right? Well, you do something that sucks, or and you're like, I don't have to worry about that. Later me has to worry about that shit. Later you doesn't exist yet. It's just now you. And I only got to worry about now me. I got to do this ruck march. Or I got to do this fucking stupid shit here, and well, suffering the consequences. Later me can worry about that. Is that kind of like a kick the can down the road, destructive mentality that you saw on the same side of things from your point of view?
Absolutely, 100%, man. And you can see that everywhere. I mean, I just feel like that's just the general consensus with everybody. Especially these days, it's all about just, like I said, that instant gratification. Uh, people making people making decisions that they know are not the right decision to make. It's like I work with guys today, and a big thing that I'm always saying is like, we're adults today. We know what the right decision is pretty much in every situation. So it's like making the right decision, regardless of how we feel or what our emotions are telling us. We need to put all that stuff aside and just make the right choice. Um, but however, like logic and emotions are good tools to use, though. Sometimes when like logic doesn't necessarily push us farther, we can use our emotions to overcome that and push us to continue to make the right decision. Or like if emotionally we're not really feeling it, we can use logic then as a counter tool and say, okay, this needs to get done, make it happen. um,
It's tough logic, right? Because we touched on like hormones being fucked up, and that fucks with your mental state. I mean, not having enough water, not being hydrated enough can make you make stupid decisions, or not getting enough sleep. And these things, you start getting into trouble early, and you're having these highs and these lows, and it leads you to make bad decisions. Um, some of that's where you live, and not, if not eating the right thing, or you're listening to the wrong people. Yeah, that you start listening to the wrong people giving you bad advice. Do you feel like you didn't have that person in your ear telling you the right things to do, so you just started listening to anybody that would talk to you?
so my father, he was around. Of course, just not being present in the home, I think was a big factor, as well. Not just constantly being there. Um, but like you said, also everything's so influential. Like music is super influential. Back when I was younger, it was when I was like early teenage years, started listening to a bunch of hip hop music, rap music, and started socializing with kids that are doing a bunch of the things. I always wanted to be part of like the cool kids. I always felt like I never really fit in with the cool kids, and so I would always just try to do whatever I could to be accepted. Which even got back to like the first time me smoking weed. I started smoking weed at like 10 years old, and it was with the kids that I thought were the cool kids, and they had some older siblings that were already, drinking, smoking, and stuff like that, and so it just kind of pushed me into it. And it's like I wanted to be, and that even got so far to where it was like I wasn't a part of something, but I tried to be a part of something so much that I ended up being a part of it. I didn't, I wasn't something, but I like eventually, I guess, worked to where I became part of that. And it got really serious. By the time I was a teenager, a late teenager, a lot of the guys that I was hanging out with when we were, in our earlier teenage years, 14, 15, we were part of, like, we had our little crew, that we were causing little things around the neighborhood. But once guys got to a little bit older, a lot of these guys were in inner city neighborhoods in Los Angeles. They started getting from, like, their neighborhood gangs, and those guys were really doing a lot of stuff in the late '90s. I was real close to the Rampart district there, and that's like when that whole Rampart scandal happened. I don't know if you're familiar with that. That was so, like, remember that movie Training Day?
Mm.
Yeah, so that was documented about, like, that time. Rampart district had a lot of corrupt officers that were in there that were taking drugs from the evidence room, selling drugs. They were just like a regular gang in the neighborhood. They were, you know, doing all sorts of madness. And so, guys that I was hanging out with, guys that were my friends, guys that I grew up with, started putting in work for the neighborhood. These guys are, killing each other, doing all sorts of stuff. I got buddies that ended up being wanted for, dozens and dozens of homicides, and things were just getting real out of hand, man. And so, I took it at that point in time as, like, I wasn't. All of a sudden, I found myself really knee deep in a bunch of stuff that was real serious, and so. I got out of town, man. I just left. I left California when I was about 20, 21. Made the geographical change. Of course, still took me and all my bad habits with me, and was in Tucson, Arizona, trying to go to college, and still found myself just, walking around with a gun, selling drugs, and doing dumb stuff. So, people try to do the geographical change. It doesn't do anything. It's just, you really have to change yourself. But eventually started making some good changes. Got out of Arizona, went to Texas. Was there supposed to go to school. School didn't really work out, but I started working for a sales company. Um, Progressed into management pretty quickly. Started running this whole sales company. So things were going a little bit better for me. But eventually moved back to California. In 2007, my younger brother that I was with started a construction company. So I came back to help him grow this construction company, which started doing pretty well. We got into LA, into the west side there. We were working on a lot of custom spec houses in Bel Air, Brentwood area. Started making lots of money, partying a lot, spending a lot of money. At that point in time, had a pretty heavy cocaine addiction. Um, and just living that party lifestyle with my brother, which got really bad. We were doing so much cocaine. He ended up having heart problems. He, like, dropped out in the casino floor one day, almost died, and just just things. Just, if you don't really address things, they'll just progressively get worse and worse. Um, it was at that point in time that I finally first got in trouble. I didn't get in trouble until I was like 26 years old, and not having any experience in the legal system, the judicial system, uh, I fell victim to, I don't want to say victim. I made a bad decision and I took a deal, which gave me a criminal record on something which I was not guilty of. And I should have taken all the way to trial. I would have beaten, uh, with the knowledge I have now and the experience I have now, which is a common thing I see with a lot of guys that have never been in trouble before. They first get in trouble and then they end up just taking a deal, which then gives them a record. It gets them in the system, and then it just becomes a big problem from there. So that's when all my trouble first started to happen. My late
Up
20s.
to up to that point, you just hadn't just been lucky in getting away with things, or just not caught, or how do you feel that went?
Yep. Lucky, not getting caught. I know today it was just God working on giving me my testimony. Just didn't get caught for anything. Was constantly doing things that wasn't committing too much crime once I got out of California. but still, I guess, still using substances and stuff like that. We were, my brother and I, we were selling some, some stuff. So I guess that is committing crime, but just didn't get caught. Just didn't get caught for anything. Finally, like I mentioned, did get caught. Got in trouble at 26. Um, it was a real tragic situation. A girlfriend actually beat me up, and I just admitted I took a plea deal for a spousal case when I've never even, I mean, I was raised by my mother. I've never put hands on a female in my life, but I took that deal because I thought I would get out of jail, which I didn't get out of jail and ended up doing time. Um, and just gave me a record, and it's been something that's just been something that's been an issue. Then I had the great idea at 30 years old. This was just the really, again, not having people around you to, we're products, our community is everything. And so I was out at 30, completed everything, did all my probation. And then at 30 years old, I got away from my brother. He was dating a girl that I knew was trouble, and they had been together for a year because I was gone doing time for about a year. And so their relationship was already kind of deep. And so he wasn't hearing the fact that I was telling him that she's no good, which she turned out to be no good. But so I got away from him and I was kind of on my own. And a couple of the guys that I was around in the neighborhood, these guys were smoking meth. So I had the great idea at
Is
30
that
years
bad?
old.
That sounds bad.
Oh, it was horrible, man. Yeah, I knew, when I was young, I started using substances like at 10. It progressed into, went from smoking weed, drinking alcohol, cigarettes. It got into pharmaceuticals, hallucinogenics, all of them, and cocaine. I stayed away from the meth and the heroin because in the Palisades, a lot of the older siblings that were about 18, some of these guys got into heroin, and these guys were like overdosing. So I stayed away from those two substances. But so then I smoked meth at 30 and was like, wow, this is like superhuman stuff, man. It was just like, turn into like super soldiers, So did that, and my job that I was working for broke away from my brother. So then I was teamed up with an HVAC company, and they knew I was getting high, but I hadn't missed work and was never late. And so they were like, "Hey, you need to go to a rehab or you don't have a job." And I was like, I justified it there. I was like, "Well, I've never missed work. I've never been late, so I guess I don't have a job." And so lost the job at that point. Then shortly after that, I ended up losing my place, became homeless, and that's when the real problem started to occur. Um,
Yeah, the trades are not good for you, really, is what I would say. Like there's some there's some people with some addiction issues in the trade, all trades, right? Because you get to the job site at 6, you get off at 2 in the afternoon, you head right to the bar. Everybody's killing a 12 pack before they head home for the day. Um, and some trades are worse than others based on that. But yeah, there is. That's not a if you can make a great career out of it, if you just stay out of the pub after work or stay out of that life. Did you see that in a lot of guys in the trades? Because it looks like you kind of
yeah,
were bouncing around before before the market crash of 2008. Really,
yeah. Yeah. You hit it on the head. Guys in the trade industry, they're all using substances, drinking. It's a lot of the guys that I work with today. Some of the guys are from that industry or they're union workers, and it's just super prevalent in all of it. Um, yeah, it's sad, man, how abundant substance abuse is, and just in society in all different areas.
yeah. Um, and as you said, doesn't discriminate. Like you get it a little bit, and it just hooks into you, and then you're stuck. And the era we're talking about is like the opioid epidemic as well, um, and huge boom in construction. So everybody in the trades had tons of money. I remember there's one carpet guy that my boss had. You didn't even have to pay him. You paid him in beer. You just gave him a 30 pack and he would just come do the carpet on the job back. That was early 2000s. But there were guys in the trades like that. You know, they're just working to have their drinks for the next day and then get back to work and keep that cycle up. It's not
Yeah.
definitely not healthy looking back on it. But kind of that's the life you get into because once you get into it, you're like, oh, this is normal because you're in it every day and you're like, this is normal. And then it's as with addiction or drinking or something, it's never enough. So you keep doing more and more, and then you really fuck your life up, um,
Yeah.
and then it's
Yeah.
out of
What?
control.
Oh yeah, dude, tell me about it. It was like, so I got into this meth. I was using meth, and then it was like I became homeless and jobless, and so then I needed to support my addiction. So I really just like, it didn't take long. It was like within 6 months. Um, there was an incident where they came to my house and ended up in a foot pursuit. I was like, ended up running through my place in just my boxers, Supermaned off the balcony. The next thing you know, I'm like running down the street in just my boxers in broad daylight, no shoes or nothing. I had my phone in my hand and managed to get away, but ended up shortly after that finding out I managed to get myself on like LAPD's Pacific Division's most wanted list. They had like a flyer in their cars with my photo on it, my buddy's photo, and it turned into madness, bro. I mean, literally, like it turned into a freaking movie. There was all these stolen cars involved. There was all these pursuits involved, foot pursuits, car pursuits. And I mean, even one time I was on foot and the ghetto bird got called and managed to get away from the ghetto bird on foot, bro. I was like taking on a foot pursuit, like in like La Cienega and Venice Boulevard, which is like a huge, like intersection, big crossing streets. There's like a Kaiser there. There's people everywhere. I mean, it was just literally nuts, man. Um, I didn't realize I didn't realize the severity of things I was doing. Eventually, when they did catch me, they had me. I was, at the subdivision and just in a little side tank, a little holding tank, and guys were coming in and they were like, they saw me and then they started like high fiving and being like, yeah, yeah, we got this dude. And I'm like, really? Like, had no idea. I just thought I was just like doing nothing, but I guess I was like causing a bunch of trouble, you know? And,
Yeah, look, it's a competitive. From the other side of things, right? It's a competitive nature. You get away, and then they go, "Well, we can't let this stand." And then you get
yeah.
away again, and they go, "Well, fuck." Now it becomes an unattainable goal where they're all in competition to get. Oh, hey, you said Tony before. Tony, we got to get Tony, and
Yep.
then your
It
picture's
was
on the
Tony.
wall,
Yeah.
and we're like, we got to fucking get this guy. And so I can
yeah.
see that. Then, yeah, absolutely high five him, and then,
Yeah.
but then unfortunately, you're stuck in the box, and they get to go home, and they've accomplished their goal.
Yeah, and
What
I'm not proud of anything that I've done, and I'm definitely not glorifying. I'm just sharing my story. It's it's I don't know if it's embarrassing, but I'm not proud of the things I've done, but I just share what I've done because it's what I did. I really wish that, God knows the life that I wish I had lived. I wish I had gone in, I wish I had served and done a bunch of fun stuff like that, in my opinion. Unfortunately, God just had another testimony for me. So, yeah, I understand it. I relate and I respect, and I'd be doing the same thing if I was on the other side, so all good.
and everybody throws out the word regret, right? But I had a few episodes ago Sergeant Major Chuck Ritter on, right? He's a Green Beret, still in. Shout out to Chuck. And it's like he said people would pose the question, do you regret anything? And then it boils down to no, right? Because if you regret this thing, a little thing over here, well, then you got to regret this big thing over here. Do I regret it? Anything? No. Would I change things if I could? And should I be shameful of the things I did and learn from them? Absolutely. But no, I don't. You can't regret anything because that'll eat you up. Um, and most of the people that I talk to on here, they're happy with they are now. So if you go back and and they let that regret in the past eat at you, well, that's going to affect the positive things you're trying to do now. If I, I was a, you know, me
Absolutely.
now, people like being around me and like talking to me and coming on here. But like a year and a half ago, I was a piece of shit, right? I was an asshole, and like, admittedly, but fuck, we got to get away from that. And you just got to change your pattern, and you got to work towards it until people don't remember that person anymore. You should, because you always got to be aware of how bad it could get back to very easily. Is that
Oh
always in
yeah.
your mind?
Oh, 100%, 100%. I don't have any problem with it. I know that I'm done and I won't go back to any of it. But all of everything you said is so true. It's a big thing I push with guys is learning forgiveness, learning to let things go. We can't change anything. And by holding on to things, there's been a lot of things that have happened. There was an incident that happened actually shortly after this meth addiction of mine started. I was incarcerated, and I got notified that I needed to contact home, and so contacted home and found out that the day before my brother had been murdered. Was murdered by an employee of ours, one of the guys that was a supervisor for our construction company. And so it was just over some ego, man. A couple of guys, their ego getting too big, started threatening each other. It was literally over nothing. It was over like a few $100s or a couple $1,000s that was owed for work that was done. And the guy knew where my brother lived, and so the guy just pulled up one day, got out, and started shooting, started dumping on him, and died right there. So it's taken me a long time to uh, learn to forgive. Today I forgive the guy that did it. But I realized that when I was holding on to that, it kept me stagnant. It kept me from progressing in life. And so, yeah, forgiveness is huge. I work with guys on this all the time. Like, it starts with ourselves. We have to learn to forgive ourselves for the decisions we've made, whatever it may be. We have to really turn that inward first, and then do that, and then turn it outwards, man, and forgive everybody else, because there's, at the end of the day, we're all human, we're all sinners, man, and people, we can't, I've learned today also to just not take anything personal. The way people act today, the things that they do are just pretty much a direct reflection of themselves and what they got going on. So I just I don't take anything personal anymore either.
Yeah, there's a point in your life where you realize or start to see things from other people's point of view. If they've got something going on, or you start to realize there might be more to the story if they're angry or they're acting a certain way or they're saying things out of the ordinary. It's like, man, maybe there's, you cut them some slack. You can, or you just cut them out entirely from your life and say, I just don't need that. And then you can get away from them there. But it's too bad that that experience takes so many years to accumulate, right? Because
Boy, does it. Yeah.
it would have kept you out of a lot of trouble had you been able to, introspectively looked within and been like, am I the problem here? When most of our lives we go, I'm not the problem. Everybody else around me is the issue. Did you see that kind of in your younger years?
Well, for sure. Yeah. And it really just kind of punched me in the face. Like, when I just eventually, started getting in trouble, like with this meth addiction, and I just kept ending up in a jail cell, ending up in a jail cell. And I mean, that happened, I don't even know how many times. And it just kept happening, kept happening, kept happening. And then when I actually made my change, it was, cycle continued. I ended up getting, they maxed me out one time. I saw the judge. He gave me a program. Things didn't work out with the program, and he was like, "If I see you again, I'm going to give you your max term." And so, sure enough, within a month, I was in front of the judge again, and he was like, "Oh, you're back so soon, Mr. Autry." Like, and so he gave me my max term. During that time is when my brother got murdered, and but when I got out, I wasn't on probation, and so I moved to San Diego to be closer to my mom, to kind of help support her with everything that had happened with my brother. But sure enough, it wasn't, a couple months later that I found myself back in my addiction, and I turned San Diego into a freaking movie scene like I had up in LA. So fast forward a couple of years, was October 5th, 2018, which is my sobriety date. Um, I was driving a stolen car coming into downtown San Diego. Sure enough, there was a swarm of cop cars. So I took them on a pursuit. Uh, Ended up getting on foot. Was under a crawl space on the house. They ended up finding me, and then I found myself in a cop car and back in a jail cell again. And I was going to a church service there. At the I was out by Otay Mesa, George Bailey facility, and there was a guy because I was raised Roman Catholic. When I was born in the church, baptized. Then my parents divorced and kind of drifted. Didn't have any connection going to church or even just my relationship with God, because that's what I feel it's all about, is just a relationship. That didn't start to blossom again until I started doing time. So I was in this facility, was going to a church service. There was a guy there who was a longshoreman, and he was full of fire, bro. He had the Holy Spirit in him, and he was just like pouring it out. And I like literally broke down in this church service, and I was like, man, like this is like, I just felt like a real good connection with God. And so took it back to my cell. And I remember God was just telling me, I was like, man, what's up, man? And he's like, at that point, a light bulb went off. Like, common denominator is like my addiction. I was thinking about it, and it was like, I was counting the last holiday season because this was like November. Holidays are coming up again, and I'm going to be away. And it was at least like the last 4 out of 5 holiday seasons I had been locked up for. And so it was like, okay, addiction's common denominator. And I'm sitting there talking to God, and he was like, I have something better for you, man. He's like, just trust me. I got you. And I was like, okay. I was like, all right. I was like, you know, if you can get me a program, that'd be awesome, because I'm just done. I don't need to do any more time. And I'll run it. And so I was looking at a lot of time. I've had priors, and then I've had a GTA case, felony evading, felony resisting. So it was like at least 4 felonies on this case. And so that's like, you're looking at prison time for sure. But I get into court, and the judge goes, for some reason, I feel like I want to offer this gentleman a program. He's like, how would you feel about taking a program? And I was like, yes, sir, absolutely. And so I took the program, and at that point in time, I had like 5 months clean, get to the program, running the program. Uh, when we want to make it, when I wanted to make a change, and I feel like when anybody wants to make a change, they have to fully submerge themselves in whatever environment it may be. Like, I couldn't be getting clean and still hanging out with a lot of people that got high or drank. You have to fully submerge yourself into whatever you're doing if you really want to make change. So I saw how guys were successful making change and in a program. So I fully submerged myself into the program. I was just volunteering to help out with everything, just willing to be a service. So was crushing the program, fast tracking to be a house manager, riding around with a program director everywhere, and just crushing the game. Um, getting ready close to graduating the program, and that's when the U.S. Marshals showed up, and they were like, "We have a federal warrant for you," and I believe everything comes down to good versus evil, plain and simple. And so I knew that, I'd played for the wrong team for a long time. Now I'm playing for the right team. I knew that it was just, spiritual warfare trying to get me off course and get back into being lost. I see today that I'm a pretty powerful soldier, warrior for God, and that, the other side was trying to get me, prevent me from doing what I should be doing. So I just took it, stood it, took it on the chin, took complete ownership of it, and really worked on my personal development while I went off and did this federal time. Um, and it's just been a blessing, man. I haven't stopped.
Um, do you ever think about, like, so you get offered this program by the judge, but the generation before, he would have just hammered you. You got into that kinder, you said the system's a little softer now. Is that did that work out in your favor at that juncture there? Because in the past, you'd have been 3 strikes, done, right?
Right, absolutely. A small, very small percentage of people make change. You know, the system has gotten softer. Do I agree with it? No. I feel like it's the same thing as enabling kids, and so I don't feel like it's better. I feel like the way it was before is the better way to go about it. I feel like there should be more severe punishments for crime. So, but for me, I just it's up to the individual. Also, if somebody wants to make a change, they're going to make a change, and so there are some resources available. If somebody really wants to make change, they can. There's classes that were available while I was in there. I took a bunch of parenting classes, all sorts of classes. I was given a drug program to do in there. 99% of the guys that were in there were just doing it to get the time off. There might have been a couple of people that really wanted to make change, me being one of them. So I did a lot of CBT classes. And so I got a lot of tools that actually helped me change my life. So it is up to the individual. Unfortunately, numbers wise, I don't think it's the right move to be softer on crime. I don't support it at all. I'm way opposed to it. So
You get the numbers, right? You're probably more acquainted with them than I am, but yeah, it's people first they're working the system to get time off, right? And then they're just going right back. Is that's the generally what the majority is, right?
absolutely.
So I don't know, but everything changes, and that's not a really. I don't fit into any of that decision making and things like that. Obviously, this case worked out for you, and you really have to want to make that opportunity work for you when it presents itself. And so it's a good thing it worked out for you. But to, did so you come up for with the Fed charge, right? But this is from way back when they just finally had enough to get you on it, and then they found you, or how did that work?
So the feds, they have a statute of limitations of 5 years, and so it was about 3 years prior from when they hit me with the warrant. So I had done a lot of things that would have warranted federal, charges and stuff like that. And so I think it was just realized that like I was done, I was clean, I'd stepped away from the game and I was just done. I think they realized at that point in time, like, okay, we need to get this guy for something. And so they got me. It was a single man indictment. It was a distribution charge, which was just over their 50-gram minimum, which they have for methamphetamine and heroin. It was 2 ounces. So 2 ounces equates to a little bit over 50 grams, and so that was just enough for them to charge me. And so signed right away. I signed right away, so they wouldn't impose mandatory minimums, which is like a 10-year mandatory minimum. Signed right away, so I got 77 months. I ended up doing, I think, 60 months, something like that. I was given a drug program that gave me some time off my sentence, and yeah, I just it comes down to, people, they have to want to make a change, again, at the end of the day. And if somebody wants to make a change, they can, regardless of whatever circumstances they're in. I was incarcerated, and I was still as free as a bird, though, because I knew what I was doing, and I had a relationship with God. I have a relationship. And so I just mentally was not there. I was there physically, but I just was mentally not there, and just taking care of business. I just knew that I was how I was operating, what I was doing. I wasn't losing, I wasn't sacrificing that time. I just really made the most of that time.
Fuck, great. Most people don't. You get down on yourself or things like that, and you're just waiting for the clock to run out. What's the difference between? So were you doing state time and then federal? What's
So
the
I made yeah. So I went from doing a bunch of county jail time. I had a few charges that were nonviolent, and so they have a AB 109, which is a population reduction type deal. So if guys had a case that warranted state prison time, if it was nonviolent, they were doing it in the county. So there's a lot of guys that are doing a substantial amount of time in the county, which is kind of not a very I mean, I understand what they're doing, but county jail living situations are only meant for a certain amount of time. But you got guys in there that are doing, 10, 20, more than 20 years in the county jail, which is not a good thing. So I went from doing straight county time to then catching a federal case and going to federal prison. So I didn't go to any state prisons. It was just, however, though a lot of people compare LA County Jail with a lot of state prisons, just due to the nature of it, the violence in there, and just how people run California. Everything's segregated by race, and it's really actually similar to the military. There's like a hierarchy. There's guys that are in positions. There'll be a guy within a race that has responsibility for the whole facility. There'll be, a guy that's responsible for that housing sector, all the way down to a unit. That there'll be a representative for the unit, and so each person has their levels of responsibility. I actually just from doing a lot of time and paying attention to things, learned how to run a good program. So I found myself actually in positions. I was a representative or a shot caller in a lot of these situations. Um, I would just make sure our guys ran a tight program. It's just, again, starts with the self. It's like I'd make sure, guys, there is mandatory workout. If you're 35 or under, you're running a mandatory workout. I'm making sure guys' bunk spaces are clean, their mats rolled up, or their beds made. Hygiene, make sure guys are on top of their hygiene, and then just conducting themselves with manners and respect. So there's a lot that goes into. There's a whole nother world in there. But by running a good program and making sure like our guys are running a tight program, it motivates all the other races to run a good program as well. So there wouldn't be too many problems within the unit or wherever you're at. And so it's really appreciated by guys in corrections or sheriffs. They see that, and then they will give more privileges, or things just function a lot better that way. So,
Yeah, is that structure because obviously there's going to be people that wield more power, right, than others. Is that structure to keep the people watching off their backs? You said there's a lot of shit going on behind the scenes in prison, but there's people are doing stuff for a reason. Why is this structure imposed, or is it just for survival?
it's really to just kind of keep everything in check, because if there wasn't this structure and accountability within, it'd be just mayhem all over the place. Guys would, a lot of the guys, they're just not the smartest, and so some guys have short tempers, and so it's really to kind of keep just general order within the whole system. Um, there's certain things that certain people are doing, but the general structure of everything is just to keep order within the place, because if there's not that structure, there's no order, and it would just be it'd be even worse than it is.
Just like society, right? Order, order and discipline just locked up. Which ones is it the same kind of from LA County Jail to federal prison, or are those two different systems, but they have their own eccentricities?
So it's different from like LA County or state prison. There's similar programs that are run, protocols that are dissimilar, but then in the feds, things are a little bit different. It's a little more watered down, you could say. Um, there's um, there is still a lot of structure. Things are segregated. However, it's not pushed as to uh, like in the county jail, for example. There's separate showers, there's separate sinks, there's separate toilets, there's separate tables. Um, Even you don't play cards or gamble with other races. It's very very restricted in that aspect. And then in the feds, it's more relaxed. Guys are playing games, card games, gambling, doing all that stuff with other races. They're playing sports with other races. Um, I'm not really a political guy. I'm just a regular guy. I'm not when I say that, there's some political guys that are, I don't have any kind of judgment against any other race of guys. Like I'm friends with everybody. Um, but so it's a little more less structured in the feds. Um, but there's still there's still structure there. There's, for example, sex offenders will be housed in general population a lot of the time in state and stuff like that. They're not housed in regular population. Um, so they're housed in GP in the feds. However, there are still regulations within the house and structure to where they're not allowed to hang out in the day room and watch TV. They have to stay in their cell. Um, However, you can't touch a sex offender because it's actually considered a hate crime now, and there's a whole lot of time that comes with doing anything like that. Um, but I don't support. I just kind of kept my blinders on. I wouldn't associate. I just kind of just did my program, ran my thing, kept to myself, and got out of there as quick as I
Well, that
could.
was after your sobriety date, right? You kind of had the structure and you kept your thing. What's your thoughts towards doing time before that?
I still did all my time sober. I'd get in there.
Okay.
Guys would be in there, and it just is really nasty, man. Guys, I never got into any kind of intravenous, using needles or anything like that. But guys would be in the county jail, and there'd be like a homemade needle, and guys, the whole unit would be sharing that. I mean, so you got like 100 dudes using this dirty old needle. You got guys that are getting abscesses, and then also just using substances and having like psychotic episodes and freaking out and just like, guys staying up all night. And it's like, it just was something I was never a part of. So, I was always sober when I would be doing my time. Unfortunately, when I'd get back on the street, I'd fall back into my addiction. But it was just it was different when I was doing my Fed time. And so just really stayed away and just but it's all. I mean, it's the big thing in the feds is K2 or spice. That's like that's the big epidemic in the feds. You got these guys that are they're getting it in. They're spraying paper and getting it into the facility, and they're selling these little pieces of paper, and guys are smoking it and having like psychotic episodes. They're like freaking out, like kind of like they would have like on Sherm or PCP. Guys are just flipping out. It's sad. It's a big epidemic.
I I got to my first unit August or September of 2011, and I'm private. I don't know anything. I'm just kind of, and sergeant's yelling at us, we got to go form up outside the barracks. And I was like, oh, what's going on, Sergeant? We're looking for bath salts. And I'm like, smart ass me. I'm like, what, you mean like for a bath? Like, are we not allowed to take baths in the Army? Shut the fuck up, Private. And I start talking to soldiers, and soldiers are smoking these things and fucking freaking out or dying.
Yeah,
Bath salts and spice. And I had
yeah.
no idea what the fuck that was up until that point. And people were getting kicked out of the Army, getting dishonorable discharges and shit for bath salts. And I'm like, fucking cornfield ass Nick here. I'm like, for like a bat, are we not allowed to take it? I was being serious. I was like, is this
Yeah.
something I don't know about? And they're like, shut the fuck up. I'm like, oh, fuck. I don't know. I think I'm over my head here. These people are fucking weird.
Yeah.
For everybody listening home, people smoke fucking bath salts and fake weed, right? Is that what K2 is?
Yeah, well, it's a chemical. It's a chemical, and when they first came on the scene, they were like spraying some kind of like some stuff that was like weed, and so now it's just a chemical, and they'll spray. In the feds, like I mentioned, they're spraying paper. It's so bad. It's like you don't get any of your own mail in the feds. So anything that comes in, they Xerox copy it, and then you get the Xerox pages. You can't get a birthday card or even just a handwritten letter on a piece of paper. Everything's copied. You get the copies, but they're still getting it like through legal mail. They'll get it through legal mail, and they can't check the legal mail for legal purposes. So then they're getting stacks of paper, and it only takes like a piece like that big for guys to have an episode on. And so you got guys making tens of thousands of dollars in there off of this stuff, man. It's just it's a big issue. It's one of the biggest issues in the feds.
I never heard of that one, but obviously not really my arena. That's crazy. So it's just there's just a ton of shit going on all the time. How difficult is it for you to just keep to yourself and do your thing and try and be as healthy as you possibly can be while locked up?
Not hard, you really everybody has a decision on who they choose to associate with, and so I just chose not to associate with anybody, and, you develop a reputation in there, so it's like, it doesn't take long for guys to figure out, like, what you do, you know what I mean? If you're an idiot, if you're a knucklehead or not, and then guys respect it too. If you don't partake in a lot of stuff, guys will respect you and know that you're not any part of it, you know what I mean? So, you develop your reputation and it's not hard, so I had no problem with it. I just was all about taking care of business in there, man. Just bettering myself.
Yeah, I read something once that like, contrary to popular belief, there's Hell's Angels that do CrossFit and like they're super fit and shit, right? And like pillars in their community, they still ride motorcycles and ride with Hell's Angels, but they live a healthy lifestyle. Is that thing more prevalent than people think behind bars?
Uh, it's no, there's yes and no. There's a lot of guys that do work out and run a pretty good program as to discipline and structure and stuff like that. It's pretty common in prison. However, you got varieties of everything. You got guys that, that are think they're running a good program, yet they're still getting high and all that stuff. So, but yeah, there's communities also, like you mentioned, some chapters, some bike guys that are sober. They don't, do a lot of things that typical people would think they do out there. So, you just really can't judge anybody because you never really know. You
Yeah,
know, yeah.
everybody's got their version of sober too. They could still be lying to themselves and being like, I'm doing a great job, like you said, and then they're not.
Yeah.
So when did the fitness start? Because now online fitness coach and then some in-person stuff I'm seeing, and obviously social media, and you got to make content and things like that. Had you always been working out and staying fit, or did you kind of discover the weights?
So some of the best memories I have are me and my father. So I had moved in with my father about like 14 or 15, about 14, lived with him for a few years, and then I was out on my own at 17. But a few years there that I was with him, I was in high school and I was playing football. And so we'd get up early and go to the gym before I went to school. So I was actually taught he used to go to Gold's Gym back in Venice back in the heyday. His roommate was the manager at Gold's, and so like he knew like Arnold, Lou Ferrigno, Franco Colombo, all those dudes in the heyday. So he taught me how to work out, proper form and just how to operate in the gym. So I learned those skills at an early age, which are some of my greatest memories. And I highly encourage guys that I work with today, if they have sons, to build that relationship with their kids, teach these kids how to work out because it is a life lesson, life tool that guys can have. So I was always conscious of it. However, in my addiction, it was not really existent. I wasn't working out. But then when I kept finding myself incarcerated, I was always working out. So then fast forward, I was getting sober, became a real foundation for me. And I got out and I just carried my kind of program or my routine out here to the street. I didn't get on any social media. I didn't socialize with anybody. I initially was first working, I got a job with the Ironworkers Union, but I'd get up early. I'd go to the gym before, then be on the yard at like 6:30. Wrench on iron all day long. Um, and then I was going to jujitsu, would go roll in the afternoon, and then I would go home and then just repeat the process. And I did that for about like 6 or 8 months. I was in San Diego, or I'm here in San Diego, and my brother actually went to school. One of his buddies from high school was did some back end stuff with Victory MMA, which is Jocko's gym, and so when I got out, my brother knew the kind of path that I was on. I was also had got big. I got turned on to Jocko's stuff. So I read all his books. I was reading his stuff when I was in prison, and I was like, man, this is it, bro. Discipline all the way. And that's where I kind of got into reading a lot of stuff with a lot of military guys, a lot of top tier stuff. Came across Adam Brown's story, which is a super inspiring for me. And so got out, and my brother Danny took me over. He's like, "Hey, I want to introduce you to some guys over here at Victory." So I kind of put two and two together a little bit that I was Jocko's gym. Went there, and I actually know Dean Lister from back in the day here in San Diego and the whole San Diego scene. And so I was at Victory and seeing Dean Lister, and he was like, we recognized each other. So we started talking, and Jocko was actually there. And so he came walking up, and I was like, man, I was like, excuse me, sir. I was like, I'll let you know something. I was like, I've been, a huge fan of your stuff. I was reading your stuff. I was actually in federal prison, and I was a mentor in that drug program. And so we would have these morning meetings, and I would be up at the podium. I'm telling them this. I'd be up at the podium, and I'd be reading Discipline Equals Freedom to all this unit full of guys, like getting these guys to try and level up. And he got a big kick out of that. He thought it was pretty cool. So um, was rolling out Victory for a while, and a guy, I was in the locker room, kind of recognized me because my mom actually lives on the island, Coronado Island. They have a restaurant there. And he was like, "Hey man, I seen you in Coronado at a restaurant." And that kind of like, so I started talking to this guy. We became friends. He's a younger, successful business owner. And so I was like, okay, this is somebody I can socialize with. This person doesn't have any, bad habits. And so I started socializing with him, and he, kind of knew I had the mindset of wanting to be able to give back. Like that was something I wanted to do. Like I wanted to, come back to San Diego, find some like at-risk youth programs. I'd got in touch with one like Big Brother type community. It was called Boys to Men. They mentor younger men, and so that was something I wanted to do. And so this guy was like, "Hey, there's people online coaching men, like kind of what you're all about." And so that I had no idea. I'd never been on social media before, never been on Instagram. Um, and so kind of checked it out and was like, this is something I could do. So actually just started it, had just started it, not really knowing what I'm doing, but just got on and started being super consistent. And it started growing from there. Before I knew it, man, I had guys reaching out to me. Like T-Cab, Taylor Kavanaugh reached out to me, and I get this DM from him, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, I'm watching these guys on YouTube, because that's all stuff that I like, guns and all that stuff and everything. And so he reaches out to me and says like, hey man, I like what you're doing, bro. He's like, keep doing it, man. And it was super inspirational for me. He reached out. Cody Alford had ended up reaching out to me. So became friends with these guys. They shared some good things with me. They're just all about, I found myself getting in a network of guys that would just reach their hand out and help pull me up. Cody started sharing some good things with me. We developed a relationship. And so the thing just started growing. And I found just through me putting out my story out there, was bringing in a lot of people that, needed help with addiction, and then just getting in good physical shape, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just continued to grow, man. It's just morphed into, uh, now I've got into a community where it's a lot of guys that I work with. Terry Wilson's a great friend of mine. Terry, big shout out to Terry, man. He's just such a good dude. Um, I mean, the community I have now is just full of a lot of guys that are, vets, and is now turning into a lot of guys that I work with. And so I'm super grateful, man. It's just turned into an awesome thing.
It's gotta feel good. Like you go up to Jocko and you tell him that story, right? And you're like little fish talking to a big fish, right? But now you're turning into a medium-sized fish. And then now, how does it feel from your point of view when other guys are coming up to you telling them how you've inspired them? How's that? Because you're like, I'm a nobody, and then all of a sudden somebody thinks you're a somebody, and you're like, how are you feeling with that now, knowing where you came from and being like, because when people like reach out to me and they'll tell me anything like I'm proud of you or anything, I'm like, oh, oh, I don't know how to react. Like, I can't
Yeah,
believe that people like my stuff. First off, how do you feel about it?
Same way, man. At first, it was like really kind of like, oh wow, but it's awesome, bro. It's really good. You know, I get feedback from everybody, man. Literally everybody. I get feedback from uh, guys that work corrections, and they tell me that, hey, you inspire me to do my job the right way because people actually do change. That's huge. I mean, I get feedback from a lot of guys that have served, and they're like, hey man, like, you're helping me deal with things that they got going on in their life. I mean, it's just across the board. It's just it's so big, man. It just blows my mind. So I went to this event Core Medical put on. So I was talking with Cody, and then before I knew it, I was talking to Sydney Gordon. Which is he's the CEO for Core Medical Group, and Sydney invited me out to their military appreciation event in South Carolina. It was a couple months ago, and I knew Cody, and I didn't really know too many other people that were there, but it's full of heavy hitters, man. Um, so I went to this event and just started meeting a lot of people. Most people not knowing who they were. A couple of people that are pretty well known, I knew who they were. Like I met Jason Redman. We became friends. Um, a lot of other people. Jason actually just wrote me a character recommendation letter because I'm working on my expungement in order to get my rights back so I can protect my family. And so I just started meeting all these people at this event. They all turned out to be a bunch of high caliber guys, and just started developing a lot of relationships, guys that I'm friends with and I talk with on a daily basis. Byron Rogers is a good friend of mine now. Do a lot of work with him. A lot of the guys that are in the EP industry, helping these guys with their fitness, their nutrition. A lot of guys just need to get dialed in on their nutrition. A lot of these guys know how to operate in the gym, so they just need to learn about nutrition, teach them about their macros, and just turn these guys into the best operators that they can be. So big shout out to Sydney, man. Though he's really brought me in and opened up a lot of these doors for me. So the whole network that I have now, I'm just super grateful and give all respects to Sid for getting me in here. Um, and they're just all wonderful guys, man. Everybody is just all about helping each other out. Um, it's insane, man. So I'm working on my expungement these days. So a lot of guys that I'm talking to are writing me these character recommendation letters. They're all highly decorated, like top tier guys. And I got a stack of letters from these guys, and that's probably the most humbling thing about it, man, is to have to hear from these guys that have lived just such a life that I admire and have done just such great things, and for them to be writing these letters and saying the kind of things that they're saying about me, a lot of positive things, and giving me a lot of compliments, is just like, bro, I can't read these letters and keep a dry eye. It's just it's letters that I'm going to cherish till the day I die. Um, and so it's pretty cool, man. It's pretty cool.
I bet. Um, there's some heavy hitters in there. Um,
Yeah.
and to some extent, everybody's a lesser, in our community, unless you're a few select people, everybody's a lesser known operator to someone. And that's why I like about the show. Like, I can pick who I want to have on. There's a baseline. If you qualify for that and send me a message, you will come on the show. Like if you were special operations veteran or active duty, and a list of MOSs, but like you're associating with these people. And I was like, I got to have you on. I think that's fucking interesting. And I think that's great, right? And it just outlines like no matter where you are in life, just help people out, and then it'll work out for you. Like just be positive and help people out. Like these guys have huge um, reach in their influence, and they can help you out, and then you'll help other people out. It's like you got a great story. You're the more you tell it too, you're going to get better at telling it, and then people will hear it more because then it'll start pinging. People want to listen to that sort of thing, and I just think that's great. I think it's when I started this, I thought there was more people were going to tell me to go fuck myself, right? I send message out because I send message out and people, they'll reply back, oh yeah, I'll come on your show, and things like that. It feels so good. And you want to do a good job. Like, I just want to have a conversation with you. Hopefully people enjoy it, but I want to have something that you'll be like, hey, look at this guy's program, had a great conversation with him, and that might people might draw their opinion off of that. How much does it drive you moving forward, having all these people say all these great things about you, and you just don't want to? Now it's like part of you is, I don't want to let these people down. Also, how much do you think about that?
Big time, man. Absolutely big time. It really is pushing me to really do the best that I can. I mean, I've been, I don't like saying doing the best I can because I feel like there's always room for improvement, but it really pushes me to really always be pushing the envelope and just doing the best I can because now I'm working with these guys. Now I'm providing the accountability and services for these guys. I'm like, man, I need to be I need to be coming with it, man. So um yeah, it really does push me, and I have the most respect. I mean, for a lot, like you said, lesser known operators, man. Like I got a lot of respect. Warsaw is just a super good dude, man. Like really got a lot of love for that guy. And so it's just awesome being around. Like you said, we're all just people at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And so meeting all these people that I hold in such high regards for all the accomplishments that they've done at the end of the day, they're a normal person and we both just like will do whatever we can to help each other out. That's so cool, man. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, and like, who is anyone to judge people for what they get? It like, life sucks, it can drag you down, and sometimes alcohol is not enough to deal with it. So you go to something else, and then that'll drag you down, and that's not enough, and that'll drag you down too. And then you go to something else, and then you don't have any money, and things. You just go down a bad path, and it's never too late to be who you might have been. Right? Got to make a change, and for people to hold that over somebody's head, fuck you. Right? Like, look at your own self and think, this could have easily happened to me, and I just need to be a good person to the people around me and try, and it'll make you better. It'll make everyone around you better. And hopefully I don't know, you'll be fulfilled in the end. You have your relationship with God. I feel like I'm contributing and talking to people. I built my own little community, right? I had no community when I got out of the military. I couldn't figure out what it was. And now I've got this group of people that come on my show and tell me their stories, and we're all the same, right? Warsaw, and almost to the man, all the enlisted people, enlisted military that have come on my show have almost completely or partially torpedoed their life with some sort of addiction, with drinking, coping mechanisms, and stress. And that's not exclusive to the military, and it happens on the other side too. And sometimes there's more consequences than others. So to hold that over people's heads, and it's not right. But you only learn that when you get older and you start thinking about stuff from other people's perspective, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and now with social media, we can hopefully be a better example. And like you said, though, like moving forward with expungement, so the truth about the prison term is, you don't get all your shit back when you get out, right? What's still because of that federal? Is it because of the federal? Is it because of the
Just
felonies?
no, yeah, because of felonies, absolutely. So there is like statute. After a certain amount of time, things will fall off of your record just due to time period. However, uh, depending on how clean you want your record, like for background checks, stuff like that, uh, motions need to be filed in court. So I'm not really worried about background checks. I just want to get to where I can have my civil rights back as a human being, as a citizen of this country. Like we're granted certain rights that I feel like we're supposed to have, but if you have a record, you don't have it. We'll talk like the Second Amendment, for example. Um, so it's a process though, but one thing I've learned is it is due to like an individual basis. If individuals are different people, they're giving back to society, they're helping, serve in their community. It is done on an individual basis. Like I know Jelly Roll just got his rights back in the state
Did he?
of
That's awesome.
yeah, and I forget what state it was. So they gave him his rights back, just also primarily due to him being of service, giving back and stuff like that. So I just hope that I won't be judged for what I've done in the past, but what I'm doing today. So, and it's just going to continue to be more and more. I'm looking. I've got all sorts of things going on, getting into speaking, like keynote speaking positions. I've registered with the government website where I can qualify for different state contracts. Um, Still getting into like Big Brother type communities, organizations where I'm talking to at-risk kids. So it's just going to continue to grow. Looking at starting a charitable foundation pretty soon to where I can raise money to invest in all of these things that I'm trying to do as well.
Do you feel like you owe something that you're trying to pay it back, or what is the like, you know, SF guys or soft personnel, we're drawn to the community because we can't get enough of it and we just want to improve it or just even stay around it. What's drawing you to this? What's the big thing? Is it an obligation or is it a debt you think you still owe?
Yeah, I feel like I owe. I feel like I owe just society. I feel like I owe myself. I feel like I owe God. I feel like I owe just like my fellow human being. Like I feel like the journey that I've been on, the testimony that God's given me, I feel like it's like I owe, like it's just what it's my purpose, man. Everything I've gone through, a very small percentage of people go through what I've gone through and then obtain what I've had, and then now also be blessed with all the things that I have today, all the opportunities, all the relationships, uh, all the things that I'm capable of doing. Like I owe big time, bro. Like it's not, it would be more than disrespectful to not pay it forward, man. So I feel like I'm just getting started, and uh, I'm curious to see where God's driving this car to. I'm just riding shotgun, man. I'm gonna ride till the wheels fall off, but I think he's gonna drive this thing to a pretty interesting place.
Good. As long as and you keep up with it and people around you keeping you motivated to keep on the right track and things like that. And it helps, right? Because as you said, you start in how it all started, you hanging around with the wrong crowd. Do you feel like you're just now attracting the right crowd, like with the way you're doing things?
100%. And I got a lot of good guys that will hold me accountable. And some big time guys like Cody Alford's a good friend of mine, and he's there for me. He helps keep me on track. A lot of guys, Sid is just a wonderful individual too, and a lot of guys that are just tied in that community. Mel Chancey's an awesome dude. Um, so I'm just grateful for the relationships that I have today, and nothing can get me to stop. You know,
Do you, like, how do I word this here?
shoot it from
I
the
mean,
hip, man. Just
you're,
tell it like it
no,
is.
no, like how I word it, where it's not like
All good, all
all
good.
soft special operations guys to the base level, to the soldier, fucking top tier. There's tier one and tier two, and then there's in some of those, there's not even a lot of difference. Great, the best of the military has to offer. And then we get out, some people become more popular than others. Like when I say I'm Little Fish, I got my 830 followers. Cody's got like 230 or something like that, right? 230,000. Big influence. There's other guys with lots out there. Do you do you realize how, like, to just fall into this friends group by just being positive? I'm really happy for you. Like, to fall into these groups of dudes is not easy to do, and for them to take you. So I truly am really happy for you because I like your message, and you just fell in with the right group of people. I hope you realize that.
Boy, do I. Not a single day goes by. My wife can vouch for it. I'm just real big on gratitude, man. I'm just super grateful. No, I realize how fortunate I am. Um, and I do everything I can to pay it forward, to pay it back. All these guys that are that are really well known know I'll do anything. Vince Vargas, he's another friend of mine. He's actually the one that got me in Warsaw connected. But all these guys know that like I'll go to war for any of these guys, bro. Like all they got to do is just call me and I'm coming. So it's they know what's up. All these guys know what's up. They know how grateful I am. And so, yeah, I'm super honored, bro. I just, I can't take any credit for it. I give it all to God, man. But yeah, I definitely I realize how fortunate I am.
And I was trying to word that, and it still came out. I was like, that still kind of sounds kind of weird, but it's just like awesome, like because of the situation you put yourself in, right? You put your message out there, it's positive, and people are receiving it. So I think that's fucking awesome, man. You should be proud of yourself. I'm a fucking nobody sitting in a Wisconsin basement here, and I'm proud of you. I think you're doing fucking great. So
Thanks,
good for
dude.
you,
No, I
man.
appreciate it. We're all regular dudes, man. We're all regular dudes, and like I don't, like I'll do anything for any if for anybody. I don't care who. It doesn't matter to me how big a following is or whatever. I have a lot of respect for guys that have done things. Like I got a lot of respect for you for everything you've done. You know what I mean? And so it's like it's my pleasure, it's my honor to come on and do whatever I can do, man. If you need me to do something, you just let me know and I'll make it happen. So I'm grateful, bro.
Yeah, and as I said with the positivity before, is that where if you get out and you start putting yourself out there, and people are way more receptive to helping out than I thought they would be. Because I had this perception of the internet, everybody hating each other, especially in our community, the special operations community, all this infighting, and I'm really not seeing it. It's there, but it's sectioned off to a few people.
Right.
And as long as that's not my show, that's not my gig. I just want to be better and give back.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, reach out, bro. It's really I think the biggest thing is just, people are just people at the end of the day. And so if they see you showing up and doing your part, people are going to respect it and want to be a part of it. So, yeah, I super encouraged you just keep pushing, you know what I mean? And I think the biggest thing is I never really turned anything down. I've always been open to anything that comes my way. And over time people will get to see who you are, see the person for who they are, and as long as you're just a good person and you're trying to do good, people are going to support it, man. So there's a lot of good people out there. The whole there's a lot of negativity that comes along with social media, but like I've got nothing but positive stuff going on. There's negative people out there, and we choose who we associate with. Sometimes we are with certain people, and then over time we start to realize that, oh, okay, this person isn't my kind of person, and then you choose to just kind of, you remove yourself. But you can definitely get into any kind of area or niche you want to, which is a perfect example for this is where I want to be. The people I'm working with today are the people I want to work with. That's why I'm running a thing right now. It's like anybody who's served, if you're military or if you're a first responder, you guys got a discount getting on the program. I even got a thing where if your spouse wants to get on, your spouse can join for free. So this is the community I want to be working with, and so um, yeah, that'll stand. That'll run for. I'm not gonna close that out or anything. Guys will always have a discount come in, and these are the guys I want to work with.
Is it just because that's the type of people that you want to work with and you want to draw towards you, or is it? I mean, because everybody's. And one of my questions later, there's like this kind of respect or something given to first responders and military personnel. Why are you drawn towards focusing your support that direction? I guess.
Just numerous reasons. Number one, that's kind of the direction I would have liked to have gone and wish I had gone in life. So that's one. Also, just there's a lot of commonalities. I feel like a lot of guys that we share just a lot of common interests, common goals, just common traits. Have a lot of things in common with everybody. And then also just the fact of just coming down to like the type of, American that I am, like first responders like are responsible for like taking care of my family, like keeping my family safe, keeping conducting order out on the street. So I respect all of that. So there's numerous levels that it goes to. And so yeah.
No, that's good, and but that was kind of to draw towards the commonality thing, sitting around talking with these guys, and you're trading prison stories or with military stories. What were some where you were drawing like similarities between the two?
Uh, a lot, man, a lot. There's just the example of sacrifice with like family, spending time away from family. One of the things I realized it took me a long time to figure out was um how much how much I was putting my family through, me doing what I was doing is very in the whole prison incarceration side, it was very selfish. These are actions that I'm doing and I'm removing myself. And so causing a lot of stress and grief on my family. But a common thing is being away from family. The reasons are different, definitely polar opposites on why. But being away from family, a lot of guys also struggle with addiction issues. We're both these two different worlds that we live in. They're high stress situations. There's you know there can be life or death situations. Um, and so dealing with these two different worlds, there's a lot of commonality there. Guys struggle with addiction issues, man, like we spoke about earlier. So that's another common thing. And then I think also one of the biggest things is transitioning back into society. Is a huge thing. Becoming institutionalized on one side and coming back to society and having to learn to function, be a productive member of society, and then also on the other side, just transitioning back to society. There's I think the biggest thing also is, if somebody changes in prison and they come back and they're a different person, uh, it's finding purpose in life. It's the same thing with on the other side, guys coming back to society and then losing what they've had and then trying to find purpose for themselves again. So there's the big purpose thing that comes into play. Um, Also the community, trying to find community is another huge thing as well. So there's a lot of parallels there, man. So there's a lot that both sides can relate to. But then again, it's also through just like the humbling of oneself and realizing that we're all just men at the end of the day. Um, some of us got caught for certain things, or just were maybe a small decision away from going a different path in life. So
Yeah, I say to my friends, you're always one or two decisions away from living in the trailer park, and I don't mean owning it, but
yeah,
with
for sure.
with that transition though, right? Because you said you'd get out and you'd kind of go back to your old ways, and then finally got out and you didn't go back to your old ways. How how crucial is that to have a plan? Because we need a plan coming out of the service. How crucial is it for guys that want to break their way out of the system and break the mold to fucking come up with a plan and stick to it?
Absolutely. Plan is everything. If you don't have a plan, you will find yourself getting back right into the same stuff. So that was a big thing they really harped on in the program. I would soak it up, like, or I would really be on. They had, you know, the the final term of my federal prison sentence was spent in this drug program, this residential drug program there in custody, and so they had these uh, drug treatment specialists, these DTSs that were like the counselors in that for that program. And a couple of these guys, one of the guys was had master's degrees and was very educated guy, and also had about like 20 years there. And so I would literally pick this guy's brain, like, hey, like, what's how are people successful? How are people not coming back? Like, what are these guys doing? Et cetera, et cetera. And so I would pull all this information from him. And a huge part of it was having a plan. You got to have a plan. And so sticking to the basics of that, of my plan, was just a, huge contributing factor for my success.
But the majority of people don't, right?
Majority of people don't. Absolutely. Majority of people don't have a plan. Um, and that's how they just fall back into what they're doing. I think it's the same thing, here outside. A lot of guys I work with, guys are if you want to if anybody wants to make any kind of life change, there has to be a plan, of course, but it also needs to occupy 100% of their time. A lot of guys that I work with, if they're, you know, breaking out of addiction habits or they're trying to just implement more structure and discipline, it's vital that your entire day is completely filled from the time you get up to the time you get into bed at night. It's when there's these blocks of time that are free time, that there's nothing planned, that people are left to making bad choices. It's all about people, places, and things. It's those blocks of times that then they hang out with certain people they shouldn't be hanging out with, or they're going certain places, or they're doing certain things. So it's like really avoiding those three different categories, having your schedule booked out Monday through Sunday is super important to making change.
Yeah, man. So where's all this going? What's the light at the end of the tunnel? What's the retirement plan? Or or are you just gonna? You said you're gonna go till the wheels fall off. What's your goal? Because you got to have something to look at.
uh, Goal is just to really push it as far as I can. I mean, it continues to just grow on different levels, in all different areas. Now today with the network and the community of guys that I have really close to me, all these guys are on another level, man. These guys are all, I mean, like on another level. They're all very successful. And so, I mean, I'm talking with guys, a good friend of mine we've become really good friends recently. He's talking about like, hey, let's open a gym, let's start a clothing line, let's do like supplements or like, so, um, I don't know where this thing's going to go. But I do know that I'm going to be I want to keep being of service. I want to keep it to where, I want to stay working, talking to younger kids because I think that's super important. But also then uh, just being of service, growing this thing, man. I want to stay in this community that I have where it's a lot of guys that have served because I think that's a huge, um, like last year, for example, also was like the highest suicide rate for law enforcement officers. So there's a lot of guys that are struggling, man. And so I really want to stay within this community and help these guys out because there's a lot of guys struggling, man. A lot of guys won't talk about it, but it's a big problem. So just staying within the community and just seeing where God takes this thing to. I'm working on talking with guys about setting up some events, doing some like men's retreats where, have a lot of guys that are experts in certain fields, whether it be like, self defense in like jujitsu, also like firearms, and bringing people in and showing people like, hey, like this is how real men kind of operate, man. Like this is how you can take care of your family, protect your home, protect yourself, and just get things back to kind of the way they should be. So running events, doing speaking events, I don't know where it's going to go, but I think it's definitely going to just keep blossoming and growing. So
I hope so, man. You got a good message. Do you said we said this in the minority. You're in the minority, right? The people that turn it around and go out but not a lot of people can speak about it. They'll just go back, go to their lives. You just want to, because there's such an overwhelming majority that don't make that turnaround. You feel another draw to like give them hope? Like, you can fucking do it, man. What's your message to the people that are like, I can't fucking do what he's doing?
yeah, yeah, no, yeah, exactly. Because if I can do it, anybody can do it, man. Like there's a lot in my story that I can share that I really did everything I could to to self-sabotage myself. Like I had a great um where I was brought up, the people that I knew, like, if I had just didn't really make all the bad decisions, like things I know I would have been successful already. Like I see the potential that I have, and I did everything I could to sabotage it. So I know that if I'm able to do it, anybody can do it, man. All the dumb things that I did, all the retarded at things, like anybody can do it, bro. If I'm able to do it, anybody can do it. Trust and believe that. So I just know that by sharing a lot of some of the things that I've done with people, it'll resonate because it's common with a lot of people. And so, and it's just, and I mean, and it just, I'm just a regular dude, man. And like, if I've made this change and I'm getting on social media and I'm just putting it out there, and now that I'm within the circle of people that I'm in, bro, anybody can do it, man. Anybody can make change. Anybody can at least drop their bad habits, get themselves in better shape, and be the man that the man that they deserve to be, the man that their family deserves them to be, the man that their kids deserve them to be. Because that's what it all gets down to, man. Like the family nucleus is everything. And so it's just about getting men to be back on track, bro. Like it's unfortunately everything that's going on in the world today, the ways things are, it's just men aren't the way they should be. And so a lot of guys that, I have respect for, guys that have served, these are they carry a lot of the traits of how men should be. And so that's the common ground there.
Yeah, man. I got five revamped questions for you, and then I'll cut you loose. We'll see how this
All good,
goes here.
brother. All good.
Um,
All good.
because are you the first? I had a Gold Star spouse, which her husband was a Green Beret, but very entrenched in the life. So you're the first fully detached civilian that will get through
Awesome.
with this. So let's see here. So I came up with
Badass.
what comes to mind when you hear the phrase "Thank you for your service."
Mm. What comes, I mean, automatically initially, people that have that have served, whether it be in the military or if they're a type of first responder. um I'm a big person of telling people thank you for their service. A lot of people that follow me, or if I'll see in their bio, because I'm always clicking to see who's what or who's who. And so anybody that has served, I'll tell them, hey, thank you for your service. um and it's kind of interesting. Like, I take no kind of credit for anything, but I get a lot of the time people will just, I guess, by my appearance or the people that I'm with, a lot of people will like assume that, like, that I've done something, that they ask if I'm military a lot. And so I was, no, I'm not. Um, but it's funny, like I'm getting people to thanking me for what I'm doing. And so it's kind of cool, man. I feel super humbled and super honored for it all, and I'm just grateful to play the part that I play. So I take no kind of, want to say that I've done anything. I take no kind of credit or like try to say anything like that, but it's humbling, and I feel super honored to just play the part that I get to play you know
Great answer. That went much better than I thought it was going to. What is the one characteristic that separates those who successfully reform and those who don't?
Mm. They have to just want it. Somebody has to really want it. It can't be, and it has to be done for themselves. Like I had the mistake of trying to get clean or make a change and not making myself the priority. Like if thinking like, oh, okay, I need to do it for my parents because I want to be something that they can say they're proud of, or wanting to do it for anybody or anything else. It can't be exterior. It has to be interior. Somebody has to want to do it for themselves. They have to make themselves the priority. And it's a thing that I always say with a lot of guys that I work with. It's like, we have to invest in ourselves. Like investing in myself was the greatest investment I've ever made. And it's also a very selfless thing. And people don't understand initially. It's like, how can you invest in yourself? And it's very selfless. Um, and how that plays into effect is because investing in myself, getting myself in proper alignment, making sure that I'm dialed in, physically, mentally, spiritually with my faith, I'm able to operate on the highest level that I can. And by doing that, it motivates other people around me, all my loved ones, all of my community to level up and for them to operate at the highest level they can as well. Um, so it is very selfless. And then also it really, everything is energy, bro. And so like we feel energy. Like you guys went into a situation like in a place where like you guys could feel energy. Oh, this is about to pop off. It's the same thing incarcerate in prison. It's like you can feel energy. And so when somebody's really dialed in, that energy is felt. Like when I walk into a room or stuff like that, people feel my energy. And so it's just it carries everywhere, man. It's just being dialed in also, like, and being in good physical shape. It just displays a lot of character habits. It displays things that can't be bought. Like this person's disciplined, this person is persistent, they have patience, and so it plays big dividends into anywhere and everything that we do. Like if you're to walk onto a car lot, this person's not going to try and get over on you as much. Or like in business, if you walk into a room and there's a guy in good shape versus a guy that's not in good shape, who are you going to want to have on your team? Like, so it's just super foundational. And I think the ripple effect that it has goes everywhere.
What's the one moment of your life that you wish you could go back and relive or redo?
It's tough. Like I said, there's no regrets, and I'm grateful today for everything I've gone through. I don't know if I could redo anything because I know that everything I've gone through,
It won't change where you are now. It
it
won't
won't
change
change
the
where I'm at
outcome. You
now.
would just
Oh,
redo it.
okay. Okay. One thing I could redo, just start using substances, man. I wish I just didn't get high. Um, because that would have changed the group of people that I was around initially at that point in time. And I think would have just saved me a lot of headache and trouble. So I just would have never gotten high.
What's the best piece of advice that you received during your, we'll go with incarceration?
Best piece of advice I received while doing my incarceration. Mm. I think just basically that I can that it was like that I could do whatever I wanted to do. Like um when I learned just through observing, I don't think I was really told by anybody, but by observing how certain people like ran their program or their routine, I learned that I could really be as hard on myself as I wanted to be. And so and I really took that to an extreme, like really OCD'd out on it. And so by doing that, I really learned to really um, just be disciplined. I learned how to just build the necessary character habits that someone has to have in order to be successful in life today. Because there's just so many distractions and stuff like that. So it was really just learning to be self-disciplined in incarceration.
Man, last one. What were you afraid of then, and what are you afraid of now?
Hmm. I was afraid of sobriety back then, um, and just afraid of not really knowing what I wanted to do in life. I never really knew my purpose, and that was for then. Today, what am I afraid of? Hmm, it's a good question. I'd like to say I'm not really afraid of anything. I'm pretty solid in my relationship with God, Jesus Christ. So I'm not afraid of I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid of, I have a great relationship. I recently got married with a wonderful woman who her faith is number one. So I'm not afraid of our relationship. I'm not afraid of like a divorce, which is the most common thing today with our society. I'm not afraid of that. I'm not really afraid. I'm not afraid of success either. I know that I've throughout my life, I've been given certain things to where I've saw other individuals allow it to go to their head, and and I haven't done so as well. Like, for example, also then today, a lot of the relationships that I have are with really successful people and are really well-known individuals. It doesn't go to my head. Like, I still feel, I know that I'm just a regular person. Something I struggle with also though, like my wife tells me like, hey, like you bring a lot of value to the table, because I just hold a lot of people at a higher level than I hold myself. So I'm not really afraid of any success that may come. I don't feel like it's going to change me for who I am or my character or anything like that. So that's a hard one to say what I'm afraid of today. Um, I'm not afraid. I don't think I'm going to let anything down. I'm not going to stop. So I'm not afraid of that. Um, so I don't know, man.
That's all right, man. Fuck. All right, man. Tell everybody how they can find you on the socials and your business and all that.
Thank you, brother. You can find me just on Instagram. That's my biggest thing. I do have a YouTube page. My Instagram is unchained_fit. I have links through there. You can get to my YouTube, but I run everything on my Instagram. It's me there. I don't have any virtual assistants. I do have a CRM that has some automated things in there, but all the messaging and everything, that's all me. Um, yeah, I highly encourage anybody and everybody to reach out, man. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're I work with business owners, like CEOs to blue collar guys to, as we've spoke about, a lot of guys that are of service, that have served, that are active, retired. It doesn't matter who you are. At the end of the day, we're all just men here, and highly encourage anybody to reach out, because nothing is going to change until you take it out of your head and make it tangible. And by doing that, you have to reach out and speak on it. And so that's the biggest and hardest thing for some people to do. Guys that I've spoke with for a long time and then finally made the initiative and like got on board and decided to move forward always tell me, oh man, why didn't I do this sooner? Whatever. So I highly encourage anybody to reach out. It doesn't matter what you're going through. Like, we can all do better in life, period, hands down. It doesn't matter where you're at. Like, you don't have to have addiction. You don't have to have any kind of, you know what do you call it, you don't have to have any
Sponsor?
priors. No, you don't have to.
Oh, you.
There's no
Oh,
pre-requirements. There's no
oh,
yeah, anything like
different
that.
way with
So
that.
all good. Yeah, it doesn't. You don't have. There's no pre-requirements. There's no necessary boxes that need to be checked. You know, we can all do better in life. We can all work on being more disciplined. We can all work on our habits. We can all work on our nutrition. We can all work on our fitness. These are all foundational things that anybody can take to a higher level. So highly encourage anybody to reach out. Or if you're struggling, man, if you're going through it, you owe it to yourself. You owe it to your family. You owe it to your loved ones around you to reach out, because people don't need to be suffering, man. It's not necessary. I wish I had done it sooner in my life. And yeah, I don't judge anybody, man. Like, I've done anything and I've done everything and I've done it multiple times. So I don't judge anybody for anything, and just support anybody and everybody to reach out, man. You owe yourself.
Yeah, man. Well, I really enjoyed talking to you. You got anything for me?
I would just say, brother, I like much congratulations on the 55 weeks. A lot of guys that I work with, when things start going good, it can become overwhelming. And so I really always remind guys to just stay in today, not to get caught up too much in the future. They call that like forecasting, that can kind of bring on a lot of like anxiety and stuff like that. So I always just encourage guys to stay present, stay in today, stay mindful. Much respect for what you're doing, bro. Stay at it. Just keep doing it. Keep putting good stuff out there. Good things will come. Whatever I can do, however I can be a service, man, whatever, let me know. I'm more than happy to do whatever I can. So congrats, bro. Keep running it. Good stuff, man.
Appreciate that, man. Just trying to do my little part. Well, bye, everybody.